Welcome to Main Street Podcast, an opportunity to talk to Idaho's elected leaders about the issues that matter to you. Welcome to the Main Street Idaho Podcast. We are here with Representative Rod Furniss out of District 31. Rod, you know it's been 4 months since you were on here last?
No.
4 months. You haven't been doing anything the last 4 months, have you?
I have had so much fun the last 4 months.
I imagine so. You know, before we get into all the fun you've been having, I know you're a big BYU sports fan, so I've got to get your reaction into BYU's basketball coach, Coach Pope, leaving for Kentucky.
I can't say really what I want to say, but, you know, I wish him well. And if he's going to go there, I hope he does well, and good riddance.
That's a very politically correct answer out of you. We'll get the real answer in the post-production cut here, but that's fantastic. Speaking of coaching, okay, this is a good caveat. You've had a lot of experience coaching boys and girls basketball through the years, Rigby High School. If you put on your coaching hat for a little bit and looked at this last legislative session, what do you think, generally speaking, the team did well?
I honestly think we hit it out of the ballpark. Yeah. Especially on budgets. We were able to go in with working groups and trim budgets more than we've ever trimmed before. The governor came out just a couple of days ago and said this has been the most reserved, conservative budget that we've probably ever passed in Idaho. I know that I was working on a working group for health and welfare. We went through the Medicaid budget, and we didn't cut services and benefits, but we cut administration costs, $39.5 million out of that budget after they requested the money. That's a win for the taxpayers. It's also a win for the agencies to know that they need to make sure that they're functioning properly and they're being the most efficient that they can be.
Well, and it's important to note that as states around us are going the wrong direction and following the path of Washington, D.C., not only is the legislature able to balance the budget, but you did three things. You balanced the budget, you put money away for a rainy day, and you cut taxes. And you've consistently done that while you were in office.
Over the last 6 years, under Governor Little's probably administration and his knowledge of the legislature, we've done phenomenal things there. Not only did we cut taxes many times, we rebated over $3 billion back to the taxpayer over those last 6 years. This year, we have a goal to leave $250 million in the bank and in our savings account. This year we left with $468 million. So we were being conservative. We made sure that we balanced the budget and we have money left over. You're right. Our rainy day funds are statutorily maxed out. And that's a good thing for the state of Idaho. We're probably the best financially solvent state in the nation. I've heard the governor say that not only we're the most solvent state, we're probably the most solvent of any nation in the world. And so we sit well. We haven't overtaxed our people. We provide good services. We do what we're supposed to do. I'm not saying government's perfect, but we can work on things. We need to reduce property taxes. We need to help our schools and facilities. There's a lot of work left to do, and I look forward to doing it.
Yes, maybe you're suggesting we change the license plates to say Famous Potatoes Solvent Budgets. That'd be all right?
That'd be great.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't cost any money, we'll do it.
Yeah, that'd be
all right, so budgets are something the team did well, and the way we were able to save taxpayers some bucks. What else do you think the team did well this session?
You know, we did a lot of good things, I think. We saved over $60 million by cutting taxes. And that's always a win. We went from 5.8 to 5.695 as a percentage. And then we fixed that rate. So everyone in Idaho pays a fixed rate. We're one of the few states that have a fixed rate. Usually it's a graduated rate. That's a big deal for Idahoans and to stabilize our budgets and our cash flows in the state. And so we won there. We did a lot of work for transportation. I was just looking at my notes. We did $200 million in bridge improvements.
Wow.
We did $300 million in ongoing transportation needs in Idaho. We're the fastest growing state in the nation, and our roads show it. We have a lot of people coming here. They drive through the state. They spend a lot of money. and we're grateful for their sales tax. Our sales tax is growing over to $110 million a year, year after year after year of growth. So we're seeing a lot of people come to Idaho. Our Department of Commerce is doing a wonderful job of inviting people to come to Idaho. We just hope they drive through, they don't stay.
Yeah. Well, this is important when we look at your district too, because District 31 has some of the most beautiful areas in the world, right? So we're talking Gateway to Yellowstone Park. We're talking the Salmon National Forest all through there. And those are roads that people from outside our state love to travel on.
It absolutely is the most beautiful country. I just came back. I got home last night at midnight from Salmon. We visited several families there. Every family, salt of the earth people. In fact, the last family visited, they invited us to dinner.
Wow. And
we went in and had dinner with them. We put up signs. We had a central committee meeting there where we got to speak and give a state of the state. And you're right, Salmon. I look out the window there where we had our meeting, and mountains everywhere, snow-capped mountains. Island Park has the best trout fishing in the world at Henry's Lake. We are so blessed to live in this area.
And as I hear about your experience at a town hall forum in Salmon, I feel like, that's what politics used to be. That's how politics should be. It's going door to door. It's shaking hands. It's meeting people. It's hearing about what their problems are. And then I contrast that with how it's becoming, where it's, dark money and dirty campaign ads and half truths on social media. And I mean, I can understand how it would be easy to get discouraged.
Yeah, I don't get discouraged easy. I'm a fighter, but it does take a toll. I have a family. I have a wife. I have children, 5 children. I have 11 grandchildren. They think their grandpa's at the top of the level, But for me, it's all about Idaho. I want them to live here. I want them to work here. I want them to be educated here. And so I will move forward to make sure Idaho is solvent. We have low tax rates. We have good schools. And we have good business environment.
For sure. So the team did really well, and I love the optimism. But Coach, we got to look at maybe where we fell short. What are some things, generally speaking, that the legislature may be able to improve on next session?
Well, certainly there are things we could do better. I would think school facilities is one. House Bill 521 was an amazing thing that we passed. We put, but it fell short. And I'll tell you the good things, and I'll tell you the bad things. We put $125 million toward a 10-year bond, which allowed us to buy a bond of $150 or $1.5 billion bond that we bought for the state. We were able to disseminate that money to the schools based on the average daily attendance. Mm-hmm. Some schools got $140 million. Salmon got $2.8 million.
That won't build a school, will it?
Won't build a school, but they were appreciative.
Yeah, I bet they were.
And And 521 also lowered the tax rate. It funded charter schools. It was kind of a Christmas tree bill. It had a little of everything in it. But where we fell short is we didn't push that money down to where it needs to be. And we have several smaller school districts that don't have a taxing base, a property tax base to build a new school. If I need to build a new school, even in Du Bois, Idaho, we're in trouble. If I need to build a new school in Salmon, Idaho, even though the people there are amazing and have stepped up and donated a lot of money, it is really hard to do that because they don't have the tax base that Meridian has. So in a bill that I brought at the end of the session to correct that one little thing we didn't do right, or to push that money down to the smaller schools, I brought a bill that was a grant bill. It's called House Bill 755. And what we did is we equalized the entire state with the lowest taxing district. So in a Meridian, they pay sometimes 10 times less tax per person there for a new school than they do in Banff or in Spencer or any other Soda Springs. Okay. So what we did is we equalized that. It's kind of a complicated formula, but we worked through it. We worked with the Department of Finance. We worked through it. And now we have a grant process. Once we get this bill passed, we'll have a grant process where they can look at the needs of the school. So if you have sewage running underneath your school and the kids have to cross the street to go to the bathroom when they're only 5 years old, that's a problem.
And that example we hear from legislators throughout the state, and that's in your district.
That's in my district.
Wow.
Okay, so that's Salmon, Idaho, at Pioneer Elementary. I took the governor. I went there, saw the problem, called the governor. Senator Burnshaw and I and Representative Raymond called the governor, says, you got to see this. They had a capital for the day at Carmen. The governor took time out of his schedule to go visit Pioneer School. So what this bill does is it allows a granting process through the Treasury, who already understands granting, and they will take in applications, administer the needs, and distribute the money based on the lowest taxing district in the state. Salmon could, on a $30 million ask, could get nearly $29 million in that granting process.
And they need it.
And they need it.
Yeah. So, and 521 that you're referring to is this bill that we often hear as the school facilities improvement or the infrastructure fund. And there is, it seems like that moved the needle, as you say, so far, but you can't expect to get everything in one big swing. And so there's a little bit more that'll need to get done next session.
521, I didn't finish the other half. That's the one half of it. Yeah. The other half is a fix to House Bill 292 that we passed last year. And we did put $75 million more into this program. So it's really an upper division and a lower division in 521. The lower division, we put $75 million in. That goes to property tax relief, and it's ongoing, and it goes to pay off bonds at schools based on average daily attendance. It goes to maintenance, then to facilities, and then if you don't have any of those, you can save the money, but we're going to send you the money. And by doing that, we already reduced your property taxes 12 to 16% last year. You're going to see another 5 to 6% reduction this year in property tax.
Yeah. And so for all those listeners that are thinking, how does Rod know all these numbers? Where does he get all this? You sit on the Appropriations Committee, JFAC.
I do.
So you're in an important seat to see what gets funded and what doesn't get funded.
It is an important seat. And what's even more important is we have more people in Eastern Idaho on JFAC than we've ever had before. Senator Land, Senator Cook, Senator Burnshaw, Senator Van Orden, all from the Senate, all sit on JFAC. Me, Britt Raybould, all sit on JFAC. And so we have with all those people sitting on JFAC, we can direct money to Eastern Idaho. That's the most important thing about JFAC and the people that are on it. And that's why I want to go back.
Yeah, it's important. So last time you were here, we talked a lot about Launch, Idaho Launch, which would, speaking of grants, would allow, some of these children and grandchildren that we speak of that may need to leave Idaho to become educated, they can actually stay here, get the skills-based learning they need, and fill high-demand jobs. But there was a lot of question as to whether or not it would get funded. And it kind of fell to your desks to say, are we going to be able to get the money in this to actually change some lives? As a fiscal conservative who is looking to put money away, to cut taxes, and to balance the budget, what's your thought process in ensuring that that got funded?
Well, we looked at that really hard, and we passed that bill last year, and we passed the funding for it last year. So it's ironic that we have to take another vote to fund it again. But the real story is that once you pass a bill and the funding is allocated, and then not funded till next year, that is what's called dedicated funds. Once those funds are dedicated, you can vote that they don't get funded, but that money still sits in a dedicated account and can't be spent anywhere else. So at the end of the day, the legislators know that the best use of the money is to do what we voted on the year before. So we put it inside the education budget, the workforce development budget. It was there. We funded it. We voted on it, and it passed. And I've got to tell you, I probably told you the story, but I was able to go to ISU and teach 3 classes of Launch to Hispanics. Some of those kids didn't speak English. And so I'm a bilingual, so I was able to communicate to them in Spanish. But I can tell you that as I went around the room and I asked each one of them in each class what they wanted to be when they left high school. And many of them wanted to be welders and plumbers, and some of them wanted to be heart surgeons. But we looked it up on the Launch thing, and almost all their occupations that they wanted were on that Launch. And when I told them they were eligible for this program, I saw something in their eyes that you and I really would appreciate, and it was hope.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that hope before. And so Launch gives kids hope that didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's great. And if I'm a parent that has a kid going to, Ruby High School, for example, what can I do to ensure that they have access to this if possible?
Well, there are sideboards on it. If you have other scholarships, you're not eligible. If you have, you got to be a resident of the state of Idaho. We would like you to go into welding or plumbing or HVAC. Okay. But there are other jobs available. You just have to make sure you make application, and you should make it early. There's only so much money there for that. And we probably need to fund it maybe a little bit more because we've had such great demand. Over 14,000 kids in Idaho have applied for it.
Wow. That's incredible. You mentioned earlier how Idaho is experiencing unprecedented growth. And one of your big roles in the legislature is to meet those demands, to ensure that the funding is there, to ensure that the policies are there. Your communities are definitely not immune to the challenges that come with growth. You have the small town Idaho that you represent, and all of a sudden the small town Idaho is becoming bigger town Idaho. With that comes a lot of challenges with crime. More population tends to be more crime there. You've been a big supporter of ensuring that law enforcement have the tools they need. You voted for, some bills that would deter fentanyl trafficking. Talk us through why it's so important that it's not just the education funding we're working on, but also how do we keep our communities safe?
That's a great question, and you're absolutely right. I voted for the police budget. We funded extra money for vests and guns, and we gave the police a 10% raise this year. We fund the police in Idaho. We don't defund the police. And part of that, some of the bills that we did pass, House Bill 406, in fact, was a fentanyl bill aimed directly at the distributors and manufacturers of fentanyl. If you're going to do that in Idaho, you're going to see a 3-year minimum pain in jail. It could be a lifetime, depending on the amount of fentanyl we catch you with. And we're serious about that. We don't want that in our schools. We don't want it in our kids. The worst thing that could possibly happen to any family is that they think they're taking one drug and receive fentanyl and die. It only takes a small grain to kill you in fentanyl. So we're happy to stiffen those penalties. You come to Idaho, you need to know that fentanyl, there's no place here in Idaho.
Yeah, and I think it's just so important that we balance that act between we want updated schools. You support increasing teacher pay and ensuring, you're integral in making sure that teachers could have access to the retirement accounts.
Health insurance.
Health insurance. And so when all of that is so important, on the flip side, we also have to make sure we're preventing the bad stuff from coming in, because there's nothing worse than a great, nice school that's just overrun with drugs. Yeah. And
Idaho right now is one of the only states, all of our neighbors have looked at marijuana and pretty well passed recreational marijuana. Idaho, we are the last stable state that has not let marijuana in. And the other states that have are suffering. They're looking at higher teen suicide, more DUI on the roads, tardiness at work, and the list goes on and on and on. The side effects of marijuana have just devastated some states, and so we're going to keep that one out too. One of my biggest disappointments in the legislature over the years have been a bill that we just missed by 3 votes to keep marijuana constitutionally off the rolls in Idaho. Unfortunately, those 3 votes came from Eastern Idaho.
Oh, boy. But it's safe to say as long as you have a voice and a vote, you'll oppose legalization of marijuana in Idaho?
Yeah, can you tell that from my voice?
I kind of get that, yeah. Yeah, I feel like you may have a strong opinion on that. Now, we can't solve everything in Idaho. There are some things that you don't get your hands on, but are problems that we're experiencing in Idaho. We were talking before about some of the work you were doing to try to send a clear message to the Biden administration that what they're doing on the southern border is not working. Talk us through that a little bit.
We passed a resolution in this legislature this year that we're unhappy with the Biden administration. Their handling of the border is insufficient and just inept, and it has to stop. We need to secure our borders both on the northern end and the southern end. We're also not happy in Idaho about the visa program that they've implemented. Idaho needs workers more than 9 months out of the year. We have dairies. We have cows that need to be milked 12 months out of the year. Okay, and so the visa program is just cumbersome. the employers that try to do the visa program appropriately, it almost costs them more to do that than it is to even have the employees there. So we've sent a resolution to Washington. We're not happy with the visa program. That needs to be fixed. We're not happy with the border. That needs to be stopped. And then the fentanyl that's coming across our border, we've talked about that. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from China and from all those places. We have got to do a much better job. And the governor just sent two, I don't want to say brigades, I'm not sure, but it's several, like 10 patrolmen down there to help with the border and to learn more about fentanyl so that they can bring that knowledge back and we can stop it at our border. And that's what needs to happen.
Because it's all the things you've talked about, and then it's also the challenges that Idahoans are experiencing with the inflation and the economy. We talk about all the good things that are going on in Idaho, but I'm sure as you're out visiting your communities, they don't love the inflation that is hitting them in their pocketbooks.
Inflation is a serious problem, and it's a Biden administration problem. It's not something that we should be having. Too much money was given out during COVID, and that caused a serious inflation, and we're going to have to fight through that. We could solve a lot of problems. Open the pipelines, drill baby drill in North Dakota, start fracking, right? Just that alone would lower the inflation pressures that our families are suffering from in Idaho. We could lower those gas prices, lower the transportation costs. It all trickles down to energy. Idaho is one of the lowest energy states in the nation, but we still pay an enormous amount for inflationary costs. I had to do my own grocery store shopping when I was in Boise.
You poor guy.
And, I'm not used to that. I'm a kind of a guy, I have a magic hamper. I put stuff here, it shows back up. I put stuff in the hamper, it shows back up. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. But I had to do my own shopping, and I was amazed at what I had to pay when I walked through those doors. It's hurting small families. It's taking away from the American dream. You can't get a home with inflation the way it is. Interest rates are a serious problem, and we need to lower those interest rates if we can. We need to make those homes more affordable. Affordable housing is also a serious problem in Idaho. I worked with a group last year on affordable housing. We'll bring a bill back next year to look at affordable housing and to make sure that people can get into them.
Yeah, because I think about towns like, whether it's Salmon or Rigby, that, houses, they cost very different rate a few years ago. And now in these small towns where you don't have a lot of supply, you don't have a lot of open homes, prices are, how as a first-time home buyer in Rigby, Idaho, are you supposed to get in when interest rates are what they are and housing prices are what they are?
Yeah, the housing prices are a real problem. When you have to put 20% down or even 5% down, it's tough to find that down payment right now. And so a lot of people are renting. Conversely, they're renting, but the rents have gone up significantly, and we have a shortage of rentals even to this day. So, those are some things we need to work on.
So I also want to get your take on a brand new story that just broke. It looks like the Biden-Harris administration is going to attempt to move forward on forgiving a significant number of student loans. As somebody who worked his way through college and who has kids working their way through college, who has dealt in his career around loans and around money and dealing with it both on a policy standpoint from the state, what's your take on this?
Well, you've hit a nerve.
Uh-oh. You're turning green.
Yeah. You're right. When I went to college, I had a $2,500 student loan. I thought I had gone to the depths of despair. And I paid that back after I got a job. It was my duty to pay that back. I did it. All my kids have graduated from college. I had to take loans out sometimes for them to make sure that they went, but they all graduated from college. The problem with forgiving those loans, it's just a terrible message that you send to someone that says, I signed a contract that says I will pay that back. But if you're on one side politically or another side politically, I don't have to pay it now. And it's the wrong message to send to our youth. If you sign a contract that you want a loan, you need to pay that loan back. You need to know that you can pay it back, and you need to work hard to do it, and you'll be a better person for it. It builds character to pay those loans back. Debt has made this country what it is because it makes you work hard to pay it off. And you seek innovative ways to make money when you have debt.
Yeah.
And it's a problem, and it shouldn't happen. It's a terrible political move.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's a dangerous precedent to bail out voluntary borrowers because at what point do you stop? It's student loans today, mortgages tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah, it's just a terrible precedent and shouldn't happen. And it should be the reason that Biden's not reelected.
Yeah.
One of the reasons.
I take it you're not going to be stumping for him in swing states come November.
I will be.
Man, well, this took a dark turn on my part for bringing up all this depressing stories. Let's liven this up a little bit. You have quite a few sessions under your belt now in Boise. What's your level of confidence now when you can walk in the State House and deal with all these challenges that come to you?
I told this story last night in Salmon that I'm up at 4:30. I go to the gym. I'm usually at the Capitol by 6:37. Every day when I walk to the Capitol, I look up and I see the lights in the Capitol. I get a surreal feeling that of all the things that have taken place there, all the laws that have been passed, all the men that have come and women that have come before me that have made Idaho great. And they did it at that Capitol, in those halls, in those rooms, and made it work. And the legacy there is something that I'll always cherish and I'll never forget, just by looking at the Capitol with the lights on.
Wow. And that's exactly what I kind of want to lean to here is I've been watching the Masters, and they were interviewing one of the golfers who was paired up with Tiger Woods, and he was describing what a surreal experience it is for him to watch and work and learn right next to somebody that he looks up to and has for a long time. Yeah. You're probably becoming that for some legislators, and we'll get into how you want to be remembered, but who are some of the people you serve with that, are the Tiger Woodses that you get to be paired up with?
There are several there, and we don't always agree. And that's probably the beauty of it. There are some senators there that I look up to. Senator Burtonshaw is just a tremendous individual there, and so is Representative Raymond. The Speaker, Mike Moyle, has been there 18 years. He has a lot of experience. I don't always agree with his methods or his madness, but he has a lot of experience there. I look up to that. And there are several, Representative Monks have done a great job. Representative Blanksma has done a great job. Representative Vanderwoude, I've golfed with him. And
is he any good?
And I beat him, so he doesn't like me. So
we're gonna have to get him on and see if that's an actual.
Yeah, and I'm not that good at golfer.
Bring out the scorecard.
But just some tremendous individuals there. Yeah. But I am becoming one of the older ones, and with that, a lot of people come to my office. They're asking me about traditions and history and procedures, and I'm happy to help.
But as you gain experience, we're almost in a political time where that can be a liability. That somebody who has served, who has been around, every vote you take is now something that somebody can misconstrue and flip and run a half-truth mailer out. As you are in there and you become vulnerable to some of the vicious attacks that'll come politically, how do you kind of keep your wits about you?
You just have to take the upper level and know that if they're saying those things about you, they're worried that you're going to make a difference and that you're going to continue to help Idaho. I have no problem with what they're saying. Most of it isn't true. Yeah. And so if it's not true, it shouldn't bother me.
Well, you were in Salmon last night, as you mentioned. What in that forum came up that, is important for us to know or what your voters are interested in or worried about?
In Salmon, they have different problems than anywhere else. I visited a sawmill in Salmon, and he told me that he was importing trees from Montana to saw. And I turned and I looked past his shoulder and I looked up on the hill, and there's a whole forest right there behind his sawmill. And I said, why can't you get your trees in your backyard? And he said, the federal government won't allow me to get my trees there. That needs to change. We drive by a mine there in Salmon, and where they have a contingency of maybe 10 employees, but they had 200 employees there just, 6 months ago. And why can't you continue to mine there? It's a federal government issue. We need to take our good neighbor authority, which we did pass this session, and we need to oversee the mining and the forest in Salmon and let those people mine and let those people forest. The people in Salmon know how to forest. They know how to do it. They go around the country and show people how to do it, and we're not doing it in our own backyard. That's what Salmon needs to have happen. They also had a big fire there, and it burned and burned, and a lot of people are bitter about that. They feel like the fire could have been stopped sooner, and it caused a lot of problems with air quality. People had to leave town to breathe. So there's some real rancor there with the federal government, and rightfully so.
Now then, it's important to your votes because you have wildland fire bills that come before you that, state funding for things like that. And you've got to make a decision. Is that worth taxpayer dollars, or is this an opportunity to say, well, we'll cut some money here and there? You typically end up supporting things like that, correct?
Yeah, we spend, from year to year, we'll spend anywhere from $60 to $100 million fighting fires. We allocate that money. The federal government chips in.
Yeah.
So we do the best we can, but it's kind of a blank check, and we have to take care of those fires.
Yeah. And another issue that comes up often is how we protect the most vulnerable in our population. So I was reading earlier an op-ed that you wrote about, the role of elected leaders. We got to figure out a way to protect our kids. And you referenced Senator Cook's child device bill, which we've talked about on the podcast before, and it's one that would enable a filter to protect kids from harmful materials. Yeah. Why was that such an important bill for you to support?
Well, pornography is the scourge of the earth, and I've invested a lot of money to fight pornography in our area. And Senator Cook's bill was, you're right, a switch. Instead of the phone coming with the switch on, the phone would just come with the switch off. It was a simple bill, but it was highly questioned by certain groups because of the right of privacy. But it looks like to me that if the parents want that phone to come with the switch off, that it should be an op. It should come that way, okay? And so that was the big hang up with that bill, and it got through the Senate. It wasn't heard in the House. It's a travesty that it wasn't heard.
We had a lot of feedback coming in of people who were incredibly supportive of that bill, and were really disappointed to see it fail. If you're reelected in the back in the session, what role will you play in seeing that get through the House?
I'll always fight pornography on every step. You give me a chance to fight pornography, I'll vote for it.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, like we mentioned before, gearing up for another election cycle, you're sticking signs in the ground, you're out shaking hands. As people say, why should we reelect you? We sent you over there enough. What's your response?
Oh, there's so much more to do. It really does take about 4 to 6 years to figure out the process, to understand the budgets, to know more about them, and to understand how those bills work, and to have a relationship with the Senate and the governor in order to push a bill all the way through. There are many there in the House that have never had a bill go to the Senate. There are many there that have never testified in the Senate for a bill. There are many there that have never met the governor in his office to say, you need to sign this bill, or this is the bill I'm bringing. I have that relationship. I have the relationship with the Senate. I have the relationship with the governor. And if you need something, I can get that through. A good example of that was a liquor bill. I'm not usually bringing a liquor bill, but there was a liquor bill that happened in Island Park. Cafe Sabor built a brand new Marriott hotel there. Their liquor was going to be served out of Cafe Sabor for that hotel. They found out that liquor bills has a weird law that if you don't have enough water running by the liquor store there or the liquor place, the Idaho State Police can shut you down from being able to sell liquor. I know that sounds strange, but that's the law in Idaho, and it happens a lot. So they came to us. They said, we need this fixed. We went to the draftsman. We came into the House, into the committees. We passed the bill out of the committee, went to the floor, passed it out of the House, went to the Senate, passed it out of the Senate, went to the governor and said, Governor, you need to sign this. This company cannot go fail in Island Park. And he said, okay. And he signed it. You have to have those relationships in order to save businesses and change lives.
Yeah, I love that example. And Shout out to Cafe Sabor. That was my first job, putting burritos together at the Mexican restaurant in Idaho Falls.
Love Cafe Sabor.
We think of the difference between, and this is an analogy that will ring true to a lot of your old ag friends in your district, the difference between workhorses and show ponies, right? And it's really easy in today's day and age to go on social media, to post something incredibly evocative, and then to just kind of sit back and let everyone fight. The easiest vote to take is a no, because you can think of a million reasons on why it's not right. But as you've talked through all this stuff you're working through, whether it's a liquor bill or whether it's school funding, it's a lot of work. And no offense, but it's not always the sexiest process. All these numbers, all the bills, all the money, it's just, we get lost in the weeds. I mean, if I was advising you, I could say, hey, you would have a lot easier life and you'd get to golf more if you just took the path of the least resistance. Why are you still so committed to being a workhorse?
It's about Idaho. I love Idaho. I would make a lot more money. We make $19,000 a year as a representative.
That's before taxes.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Idaho is just a wonderful place. We don't get rich working here. I would make a lot more money. I lose money when I go to the legislature, but it's about the Idaho I want to leave 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now. The work we do today affects your lives tomorrow. And if we don't do it, who will? I worry about who will take my place. Will it be someone that votes no on every bill? Will it be someone that can't bring a bill, that doesn't have a relationship? And I work really well with Representative Raymond and Senator Burton Shaw. And we protect and make sure Eastern Idaho is our first choice. And will that not be if I don't run? And so I really have a dedication to make sure that Eastern Idaho and Idaho is the place where my grandkids and my kids stay.
Yeah. And a feather in your cap that we have to talk about is not just your relationship with the governor, but the work you've been able to do and helping him with some of his initiatives, particularly cutting this red tape. So since you've been in the legislature, I mean, like 95% of these regulations have been cut, and these are clearly unnecessary regulations because they came and they went and nobody's thrown a fit over it. If reelected, and as you look at going into a future session, what relationship will you have with still taking a look at these types of regulations?
Well, during the last 4 years, actually 4 years, during the last 2 years, I've served on a different committee, but over the last 6 years, I've been on the business committee. For the first 4 years, I was the vice chair of the business committee. Those 6 years, the first 4 years, we looked at over, there's been like 10,000 pages of regulations that we did away with. It was from the business committee. We reviewed all those rules. We reviewed all those pages. Yeah. We saw the red lines in all the verbiage that was cut. We approved all those red lines. So I've been a major part of that deregulation in business, and it has helped Idaho, and we'll continue to look at those. We've cut so much that I don't know what's left to cut, but I'm sure we'll find some.
Yeah. Anything unnecessary needs to go.
Yeah.
It's part of that three-pronged approach that we keep referring to of balancing the budget, saving money for a rainy day, and cutting taxes.
Yeah. One thing I would like to say is that on the budget process, this year we've decided as a committee, there's 20 of us, there's 10 senators and 10 House Representatives. We're a joint committee. We're one of the few states that can make a joint committee work. I have lots of people in other states ask me, how do you do that? But we do in Idaho, we make it work. This year we're going to take 20% of all the budgets and we're going to look at their base budget, which means we've allocated money to them over the years. Do they still need that money? A lot of times we don't go back and look at those budgets we've already created. We just look at the new items that we're creating. So now over the next 5 years, we're going to go through all the budgets and we're going to look at those base budgets to see what's needed and what's not. And I think that's a great plan. I hope that I'm here to do that. The other thing that I put together this year, I've worked with the department, the controller's department, and I've recommended that they put together a cash management plan. And they've worked with me on about 5 or 6 meetings. And we put together a resolution this year. You'll see one that we did, and it was voted on. But the resolution says we need a cash plan, a reserve plan, and a financial plan And then we need to coordinate those plans between agencies. And by doing that, now that money is worth, the interest on the money is worth a lot. We could save Idaho tens of millions of dollars by managing that cash properly and investing that cash longer term. And so we're going to put that together. The controller is going to help me do that. And I'm excited to do that next year.
Fantastic. When you were here 4 months ago, we talked about the motto that got you into public service: see a problem, fix a problem. We've talked a lot today about a lot of the problems you've seen that you're working on fixing. Yeah. We can go through the long list of everything you're looking at with that. We know there's problems that you've seen that aren't even close to being fixed yet, but anything we can do to chip away at it is considered progress. Yeah. As you look forward to communicating with your constituents on what you have done and what you look forward to doing, what makes you most excited about the future of Idaho?
I think I'm most excited right now about school facilities. I want to see those kids educated in a clean environment, a good environment. I don't like to see the trader houses that we have in a lot of the schools. We have the best teachers in the world, especially in Eastern Idaho. We're paying them fairly now. We have good benefits. Now, if we take the next level and we do the facilities and we unburden the property taxpayer with that, and we maybe fund that out of sales tax rather than property tax, and we take the facilities and we design them so that the design is coming out of the state instead of each community building their own, we can save a lot of architectural fees and design fees by doing that. So my next project really is the facilities, to make sure that we're putting the facilities in that can be increased over time and that are economical to put in, and that the kids have a safe place to be. The new schools will be designed so that they're not shooter proof, but we don't want to encourage it either.
Sure. Wow. District 31 in Jefferson, Fremont, Clark, Lemhi. Did I forget any?
Nope.
All right. So if anyone is from those counties, they can reach out to you. They can express their opinions and get some feedback on more of this stuff.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Representative Furniss, thank you. Thank you for being on today. Let's not let another 4 months go before we chat again, all right?
Let's do it.
All right.
On the golf course.
Maybe. And I hear you're good. So
No.
Representative Furniss from District 31 joining us today. Until next time.